Okay, so here we are in the game engine, and the purpose of this is to show that the actors in the game engine are really complex objects, and there are built-in classes and a whole host of features to present graphical information. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to use a REST API, and we're going to pull data from some Juniper routers, and they really are running live Juniper code. So here we have a number of Juniper routers. Each one is running BGP. So effectively, these could be backbones of the internet. This could be, say, London, this could be Paris, etc. So they're connected together with Ethernet connections. They're running BGP, and they're also running MPLS. And the goal is to pull the MPLS data off the router. Now, if I SSH to the router, you can see here that embedded in the Juniper, you can display the RPC call that you would like to do for any of the commands. So instead of showing the MPLS data here on the router, we can do display XML, and it will show that RPC call. And if we were to run display JSON at the end of the command, it would actually display the JSON information that would be sent if you sent the RPC call to the Juniper router. And as we know, we're moving completely to this JSON and XML type data away from the previous SNMP system. Okay, so here we are, and these are running in VMware. These routers, it's real code, but it's running virtual, and this is out on the internet. Now, what I can do here is in this environment, which is a testing environment, I can add, using this command system, my own workstation IP. When I do that, it allows me to connect directly from my workstation here onto the internet to these particular routers. And one of the things I can do is I can open up a REST Explorer, and when I do that, I have one previously open here, we can actually see the port and the IP address live on the cloud that it's using. And there's a little bit of port translation, but there it is. So what I've done here is I've set the format to JSON, and I've used that RPC command on the Juniper to find the correct RPC. And as we can see, the result here is JSON. And what we've done is we've embedded the authentication into the request to make it a little bit similar. We can also see this in Postman, so we get a very similar result here where we're running the request and we're seeing the information. Now, if we look at the JSON viewer, you can see that it's heavily nested. So the reply is going to be an object, it's going to have an array type, and another object, another array. These arrays have names, and we're going to be dropping down and we're going to be looking for this data here. Okay, so now why are we doing this? Well, the goal is that when we press play in our game, we're going to be able to send from the Unreal Engine to the Juniper and pull back the MPLS information. Now, every actor here inside the Unreal Engine can display really very complex information. They're all very complex objects. And so it would be quite possible not to just pull the data from the Juniper, but in fact, our mannequin, when the game begins, could in essence walk up to the object, press a button, and then enable a feature such as MPLS or another routing protocol. So if we have a look here at the code that I've just pulled together, just using Blueprint, so just the simple sort of click. I'm using the VA REST subsystem because this is a module to enable this to be easier. And pretty much anytime you use a VA REST subsystem, it's going to look very similar to this. I've got my data here, the IP port. You can see them over on the right-hand side. You can see the password fields that I've put in into this sort of training environment. And the result here is going to be sent to the Juniper. It's going to reply back into the gaming engine on my workstation. So from the internet back to the game. And here the response is going to go through a number of iterative loops. We're going to take the response as an object, get the array field, into the for loop. And it's a little bit complex because it doesn't come as an array first, it comes as an object with an array. Go through the for loops and we start to get their names. So here we're actually looking at the array RSVP session, then MPLS LSP, and then finally we come down to the actual data fields, which are destination address, source address, LSP state and name. Although we could pull much more information off if we wanted to. They go into the for loops, they're coming out as strings, and then going to be appending them. Now, as I said, we're not using widgets at the moment. I'm just using this sort of text object and then actually the main text render, which is not ideal. But when we come to actually print these out, I was discovering that the last one to print was overwriting the previous. So what I've done here is just created a quick variable, and the data comes out into the variable. That variable then becomes the input to the next run of data, and so it prevents the data from overwriting itself. And I've just taken the, as it were, the control power line exec off the print string. So what does this look like? Well, let's just have a quick play on this straw man. What should happen here? You can see our mannequin. Here we have, it's pulled the Juniper host name, which is BGP London. It's gone out, it's found that the Juniper is running MPLS. That's the source of the MPLS path, destination, the state of the MPLS, and the LSP. And as I say, at the moment, this is just graphical, but there's no reason why this couldn't be stored in this particular actor object here. This actor object could then, the goal would be for this one to actually look like it was physically connected to another actor object, so that on pulling down this data, it would actually build a graph and a picture of the Juniper routers. And then the other thing that we mustn't forget is that this particular mannequin could approach the router. There could be a button there. When it presses it or joins a connection, it can actually then configure the Juniper router, because of course it's a two-way process. If I just go back quickly to the SSH session, if I was to change the host name here, so and from London 1 to BGP 1 and commit that change, then back in the game here, if we were to just refresh that, then you could see that the host name has changed and the MPLS information is available. So with the right tick and the right loops, this could actually be literally a live management station to enable us to visualize these MPLS and VPN services.